Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi everyone, we are from group 7. In this video, we are going to talk about language and society. Our group members consist of Ananda Zahra, Andienie Dwi Eki Putri, and Insan Fakhriyah Sekararum. There are several topics in our discussion, such as the notion of a language, dialect and accent, from high to low, speech versus writing, certain phonological variation in British English, social network, language and sex, power talking, change in language styles, multilingual communities, pidgins, and creoles. Before talking about those topics, what is sociolinguistics? According to J.K. Chambers, sociolinguistics is often defined as the study of language and society, whereas many linguists concentrate on discovering unity beneath the diversity of human language. Sociolinguistics try to analyze the social factors which lead to this diversity. In brief, sociolinguists are interested in language differences and especially in variation within a particular language. The first topic is the notion of a language. There are 4 questions for this topic. The first question is, what is language? The second question is, can the notion of language be defined geographically? The third is, can the notion be equated with nationality? And the last question is, should a language be defined by the mutual intelligibility of its speakers? The answer to all these questions appears to be no. A geographical definition of a language would separate Australian, British, and American English, which is obviously unsatisfactory. Nationality is a vague notion which has little to do with the language a person speaks. Numerous Soviet Jews, for example, regard themselves as essential Jewish yet speak Russian. Mutual intelligibility is of little help since a Glaswegian and a Cockney are likely to find it harder to understand one another than a Dutchman and a German who are considered to be speaking distinct language. And there is no objective linguistic criterion which can be applied. Dutch and German are not only mutually intelligible, they are also structurally more alike than some of the so-called dialects of Chinese. Sociolinguists prefer to start with the notion of a speech community rather than a language. And they define a speech community as any group of people who consider that they speak the same language. Consequently, Dutch and German must be regarded as separate languages, since in spite of their similarities, the Dutch consider that they speak Dutch and the German consider that they speak German. And all the Chinese dialects must be classified as one language, because in spite of far-reaching differences, their speakers all consider they speak Chinese. The second topic is dialect and accent. What is the difference between a dialect and an accent? Basically, the difference is when we talk about accent, we are analyzing only the sounds, only the pronunciation, but differ from the dialect. Well, we talk a little bit deeper about the pronunciation, the sounds, vocabulary, some grammar aspect. For example, in grammar aspect is a huge car park, and another dialect is mentioned parking lot. This is the example from an accent. The first is differences in the stress. Listen to me, I will say the pronunciation first for the British English and then the American English. Adult, ballet, And then some words ending in ILE are also different between British accent an American accent. Listen to me again. Agile, agile, fertile, fertile. And also the sound of the letter A, where the British accent pronounce it A and the American accent pronounce it A. Listen to the difference. But, bad, close, class. And also the sound of R is a little bit different between British accent and American accent. The pronounce R is stronger in American accent than British accent. Listen to the difference. Ear, ear, were. There are many factors that influence the variation of language, such as geographical location, age, occupation, socioeconomic status, ethnic group, and sex. But in this topic, we're talking about geographical location, especially in dialect and accent. The third topic is from high to low. More interesting to sociolinguistics is within a single geographical area. There are two main types: variation within the speech of a single person, variation between language. There are 4 styles for language. The first is registers, the second is specialist speech, the third is less clear-cut, and the last is high or low style. Every native speaker is normally in command of several different language styles, sometimes called registers, which are varied according to the topic under discussion, the formality of the occasion, the medium used, such as speech, writing, or sign. Specialist speech styles are carried to excess in some cultures, where social situation may follow a high degree of ritual. The other types of language styles are less clear-cut. For example, I should be grateful if you would make less noise, and then please be quiet, and then shut up. The same person might utter any of the following 3 examples depending on the circumstance. The last style is high or low style. High style is like formal style, and low style is like informal style. The fourth topic is speech versus writing. Let's take a look to the table. More than one participant. Single writer. Inexplicit, explicit. Repetitive, non-repetitive. Fragments, full sentences. Simple structure, elaborate structure. Concert, common vocabulary. Abstract, less common vocabulary. Several of these features overlap with the informality-formality scale, with speech containing informal features and written language formal ones.
The fifth topic is charting phonological variation. The first point is speakers vary not only their vocabulary and syntax, but also the sound structure. Speakers of language alter their phonology to suit a particular situation, often without realizing it. For example, someone from Devon is likely to pronounce the R sound in a word such as farm when they're chatting with their friend at home, but would probably attempt to suppress it in a formal interview in London. The second point is we can predict the pronunciation of a word used by every socio-economic class and every age group in all types of speech. The sixth topic is phonological variation in British English. People can provide an objective reflection of various social factors such as socio-economic class, ethnic group, age, and sex. The effect of any one of these factors on language can be analyzed, and so can the interaction between them. For example, sometimes Norwich inhabitants pronounce the ing as in Standard English, and at the other time they say talking, singing with n instead of ng. Next, women were found to use ink more often than men. And the last, there are changes from below. Change appeared to be initiated by working class men. For example, in Norway, the vowel sound in words such as night, re, sight is moving toward the sound oi. The seventh point is social network. Human society is somewhat like a layer cake, with a different socio-economic layers stacked up on top of one another. Human beings tend to cluster into social networks, groups of people who regularly interact with one another. Jim and Leslie Milroy pioneered the linguistic study of social network with a study of three communities in Belfast. The Bosfork suggested that men and women's speech tend to differ, with women on the whole being closer to the prestige norm. The eighth topic is language and sex. Women really do speak differently from men. Women do not use empty adjectives such as divine, charming, and cute. It's usually used by writers in popular newspapers to describe women. Women speak better than men. Women may be pressured by society to behave a ladylike manner and speaking nicely, or because they are the main child rearer, they may subconsciously speak in a way will enable their children to progress socially, or they may tend to have jobs which rely on communication rather than on strength. Women have been claimed to use more hedges, such as kind of and sort of, in place of straight statements, and they are using question intonation in response to queries. Maybe it sounds powerless, but powerless speech can be viewed as friendly and cooperative.
Now we are going to talk about power talking. Powerful speakers typically control the topic, interrupt others, and demand explicit explanations. For example, Speaker A said, "Now tell me what you are going to do." Speaker B said, "Yes, well, first." Speaker A said, "Louder please, we all want to hear." Speaker B said, "I start by cutting this here." Speaker A said, "What do you mean this here?" Speaker B said, "The place where." Speaker A said, "Have you washed your hands?" From these conversations, we know that Speaker A is a powerful speaker. Power talking may be used by either sex, though it is more typically male. Male speakers not only talk more, they also interrupt more, even though they may not perceive themselves as doing so. Men also issue more direct orders, while women prefer to phrase commands as joint action. The 10th topic is change in language styles. The social situation is not necessarily static. Any change in the social relationships is likely to be mirrored in changing language styles. Originally, in Latin, there was a singular form to and a plural form vos. For some reasons, the cause is dispute. The plural came to be used as a polite form of address for speaking to a single person in authority. This began a general trend for using vos to anyone in authority. It gradually became customary for a working-class person to address a member of the aristocracy as vos, while the upper classes still used to a lower-class individual. This linguistic situation reflects the social situation. There exists a feudal society in which the power of one class over another was all important. Upper class to upper class vos, upper class to lower class 2, lower class to upper class vos, lower class to lower class 2. However, as feudalism died out, so did the structuring of tu and vos. It is claimed that vos came to be not so much a mark of respect as one of non-intimacy. Tu came to be thought of as indicating intimacy, companionships, and solidarity. People involved in friendships or close relationships started to call one another tu irrespective of the power situation. 11th, multilingual communities. I speak Spanish to God, Italian to women, French to men, and German to my horse, is a saying attributed to the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V. As this quotation suggests, in some cultures, a changed social situation is marked by a change in the actual language spoken, a phenomenon known as code switching. Sociolinguists have therefore become interested in studying code switching in bilingual and multilingual communities. A study of the ways in which these multiple languages are used is particularly important for language planning, a situation in which a government or education authority attempts to manipulate the linguistic situation in a particular direction. Quite often, one language or simplified language is adopted as a common means of communication. This can happen either naturally or as a result of language planning. A common language of this type is sometimes known as a lingua franca. And the last topic is pidgins and creoles. Adopting a lingua franca is not the only solution to the problem of communication between groups of people speaking different language. In some cases, a pidgin develops. A pidgin is a restricted language system which arises in order to fulfill essential communication needs among people with no common language. A pidgin is usually based on one language, though it acquires an admixture of other languages, as well as independent construction of its own. For example, Tok Pisin, also known as Melanesian Pidgin English and Neo-Melanesian, which is spoken in Papua New Guinea, is based on English and many of the words sound somewhat like English ones. Example, me go long town in English is I go or went to the town. And the second, you walk about long road in English is you walk or walked around the road. But there are plenty of others which cannot be predicted from English, such as lotu, church, DY, tree, susu, milk. In addition, it has acquired synthetic constructions which do not figure in English. For example, mi bagarapim kabilong you in English is I crash your car. And the second is kabilong mi I bagarap in English is my car broke down. The phonology, syntax, and lexicon are simpler in a pidgin than in an ordinary language. There are fewer phonemes. In Tok Pisin, P and F are often merged, so are S and sh, and there are only 5 vowels. English fish was borrowed as piece and English ship as ship. In order to avoid confusion, Piss urinate became piss, and sheep became sheep. Sometimes pigeons die out of their own accord. At other times, they increase in importance and become used in more and more areas of life. If someone then acquires a pigeon as a first language, perhaps because of intermarriage between people whose only common language is the pigeon, the language has then become a Creole. Once it has become a Creole, the system tends to develop rapidly. Speech is speeded up, the syntax becomes more complex, and extra vocabulary items are created. Fairly soon, if it continues to develop, a Creole is likely to be indistinguishable from a full language. Thank you everyone for listening and watching this video. Hope it helps you to know more about language and society. See you!